everyone, StormyStrike here. First off, don't panic. I'm not planning on leaving the model horse hobby. I'm sorry if the title of this video startled you into assuming that's what this video is about. While I'm not leaving, the title of this video isn't clickbait either. It is a genuine question I've asked myself, and a question I'm sure many other hobbyists have asked themselves at some point or another in their time of collecting. This question has sparked a lot of thoughts I want to share with you about interest in collecting as a whole, as well as the past, present, and future of my own personal collecting journey in the world of model horses. This is kind of an odd video for me to make compared to my usual content, but I do feel it is a good topic to talk about in the model horse hobby, or really in any hobby in general, because a change in interest is something that can apply to anyone. I'd say it's probably pretty normal even for people's interest in a particular hobby to change over time. If you've been in the model horse hobby for a little while, you've probably seen posts of people announcing that they are leaving the hobby or returning to it. Maybe you've even done this yourself. Sometimes it's for financial reasons or to focus their money and attention on something else. For example, I've noticed several cases where people shift their focus from model horses to real horses. Sometimes people leave for social reasons where they don't feel connected to the community or are tired of the drama that comes with it. And sometimes people leave because they're just simply not interested in model horses anymore. Life changes, our situations change, we as people grow and change. It's kind of inevitable then that our involvement in the hobby changes too. With model horses, that could mean collecting more or collecting less, or perhaps focusing your collection on a different type of model, which that in itself could be based on all sorts of things like breeds, colors, make, rarity, artistry, etc. What we like to do in a hobby can change. For example, instead of focusing on customizing, focusing on tack making instead. And I'm just giving general examples here, by the way, and obviously anyone can participate in more than one aspect of a hobby at once, but generally people do seem to gravitate towards certain areas of a hobby to focus on. I've been talking pretty broadly here about interests relative to hobbyists in general, but now I'm going to dive into talking about my own personal experience with the hobby. To start, I'm going to talk a little bit about my hobby history. I've technically had model horses since I was a toddler. I used to play with them in my backyard. I also fell in love with Spirit in 2002 when Spirit Stallion of the Cimarron came out. After elementary school, I became certifiably horse crazy, and at that time I got into Schleichs and Breyer Mini Winnies. I don't consider that I officially started collecting model horses until around 2010 though. Like many people, when I was first exposed to model horses, they were purely toys for me. Even when I started more seriously collecting, they were primarily toys in the beginning. One of my favorite things to do with model horses used to be filming movies and series with them. Then I learned about live showing and got into doing that with them too. At some point I got really interested in customizing and started trying out things like airbrushing and sculpting. Over the 12 plus years since I got into the model horse hobby, I've tried a lot of different things and would become more focused on one aspect of the hobby over the other at any given time, as to probably be expected. My general interest in the hobby over these years has definitely not been consistent either. There were periods of time where I was super into the hobby, living and breathing it every moment of every day, and then there were other times where I still loved the hobby, but I was just less interested and less active in it. Sometimes I was just more focused on other hobbies, or I just didn't have enough time to be involved with it. But then something would always come up. When Breyerfest would come around, for example, that would usually help spark my interest in it again. This year though, I feel like my interest in the hobby has really shifted in a way that feels different from the times of the past 12 or so years. There's big personal reasons that are part of that, and I will be discussing those later in this video. This year I have not been interested in buying models as much like I used to be. There have been a ton of models that have come out that I really like, but I just haven't had this huge desire to really try and get them and add them to my collection. I'm being more careful with what I choose to buy in general. I'm trying to only buy things that I truly love, not just like, which is really hard because I do like a lot of things. I have actually been trying to downsize my collection now more than ever. I'm starting to have to make some really tough decisions of choosing to get rid of models that I still like and enjoy to a certain degree, but my desire to downsize my collection has been stronger. I also feel that my desire to save money right now has been stronger than my desire to make any impulse purchases. Granted, I am still buying models, as you can possibly tell by some previous unboxing videos and stuff of this year, But I have been a lot pickier about what I buy now. Part of that is honestly due to the fact that I already have a lot of different models that I've been searching for over the years. My in search of list for models has become quite small simply because I've crossed a lot of models off of it. What I like to collect has also changed a little bit recently, but not really a huge amount. When I very first started collecting models, I wasn't really into decorators. Now decorator models are some of my absolute favorites in my collection. If you don't count the schlikes I had before I officially started collecting models, I started out with primarily collecting original finished Breyers. That hasn't changed, and I doubt it ever will. Traditional scale original finished Breyers I think will always be my favorite type of model horse. There is one new type of model horse thing I've been starting to collect, and that is medallions. Part of the reason I like to collect them is because they don't take up a lot of space and they are really fun to paint. As for my involvement in the hobby and how that is currently, I know I haven't been doing as many model horse videos. That's primarily a mix of lack of time, energy, and motivation. I still have a lot of interest in making videos. It's mostly those three factors that are preventing me from doing it as much as I would like to. The same can also be said for customizing. I actually have had more interest in customizing in about the past year and a half or so than I have in a while, yet time and energy and not having a proper studio space for it have kept me from doing it very much. There are aspects of the hobby that I have lost some interest in, one of which is model horse showing. There were times in the past where I was super into live showing and would go to roughly 4 model horse shows a year and get kind of competitive with it and would bring as many models as I could to show. Nowadays, I'm just not as interested in it, at least the actual showing part. I still like the social aspect and getting to see everyone's models, but I just haven't really been as interested or competitive in showing like I used to. Honestly, it's become more of a stressful than enjoyable thing for me right now. Tack making is also something that my interest has waned in. I could probably go over more aspects in the hobby that my interest has changed, but they don't really feel significant enough to discuss, so I'm just going to leave it at those more major changes I just covered. The reasons why my interest in the hobby has shifted so much recently are actually not a mystery to me. The past year, I've had several major life changes, each of which I believe are contributing factors to how I've been feeling about the hobby lately. The biggest factor has been losing my mom to rectal cancer in April of this year. I have done a couple posts, but I haven't actually said it in a video yet. If you want to read the post I did about it, I will have a link to that in the video description. There was so much that led up to her passing and following it that has affected my life. It would take me at least an hour and lots of crying to fully explain what happened. I'm not going to be doing that in this video. So I'm just gonna keep it short and say that I've dealt with a lot of grief, stress, anxiety, depression, and therapy. The past few years I've been on just this absolute roller coaster of emotions and mental health, and it has changed me a lot. Fortunately, I am in an okay place mentally right now, which I honestly do owe a lot of to therapy. I probably wouldn't have been able to get through some months if I hadn't done that. I will admit, it's not like I'm completely fine. I have a lot of days where I'm just tired and still feeling burnt out. Sometimes trying to find the energy to work or do anything can be really challenging. Sometimes I think back to the days where I was younger and I wonder how on earth I had the energy to do school full-time and YouTube and selling stuff and other stuff, and I just have no clue how I used to do that. Another factor that has changed my hobby interest actually still relates to my mom. For most of my life, she was a vintage dealer and she would buy and sell vintage items. Because of different things that happened in her life, she started buying items faster than she could sell them and has left me and my dad with thousands and thousands of vintage items to deal with. There is just so much to go through and sell, and besides YouTube, that's really my main other job. Seeing how much stuff is just stored everywhere has contributed to me wanting to downsize my model horse collection and being a lot more selective with what I buy. For quite a long time now, I haven't really been able to truly enjoy my collection because so much of it is just packed away. I just don't have the room to display it all, and I feel like even if I did, I couldn't genuinely enjoy each and every model in my collection because there are just so many. Sometimes I envy my past self because when I was just starting to collect, I had a much smaller collection, and I was really able to truly enjoy and appreciate each and every model I owned. The final major factor I'm going to talk about that has happened in my life is fortunately a positive one this time. which has been finding someone I can only think to describe in a short but accurate manner as my soulmate. I met my boyfriend earlier this year, and he has been a wonderful light in my life. My outlook and plans for the future have changed quite a bit because of him. We plan to move in together someday, and that's another factor that's contributed to me wanting to downsize my collection and be more careful about what I buy so I can save more money for our future together. With all that being said, I do want to assure everyone that even though my interest in the model horse hobby has changed, I don't have any plans to leave it, and frankly, I don't think I ever will. I wouldn't be surprised if there comes a time in my life where I don't actively collect or participate in the hobby, but I don't see myself ever giving it up completely, and I definitely don't see myself ever getting rid of all my models. I think I'll always want to keep at least some of them. I am still very interested and inspired in certain aspects of the hobby. Right now for me, that is particularly customizing and making videos. I have so many different ideas for customs, primarily fantasy ones, as I realize that is what I really enjoy creating the most. As for videos, I have a ton of different ideas for those too, and I still someday hope that I can bring my Model Horse series Crystal Sins back. I created that series back in 2010, which is crazy to think that that series is like 12 years old now, and yet I still think about it to this day. I have not completely given up on it. It's basically a bucket list item for me at this point to somehow, someday bring back. For now, I'm going to keep making model horse videos and try to customize when I can. I'll also still, of course, participate with general model horse stuff over social media. I do plan to make other kinds of videos here on my channel as well, like more horse media, art, and game-related things, and some non-horse stuff here and there as well. There's just so much I want to do, and I might even try some different things or bring back things like live streams, for example. I know there are some times where I used to do that a lot. And if that's something you'd be interested in, you're of course welcome to let me know in the comments. I'm always open to suggestions and ideas of things you'd like to see from me. Lastly, since I am trying to downsize my collection, and I'm sure there's some of you out there that are wondering, yes, I am going to be putting models up for sale. However, I don't know when exactly or on what platform I'm going to be selling them, but I am planning to list models for sale some point. I wish I could give better details, but right now I just really don't know. I would like to start selling some models sooner than later, but I already have so much on my plate and limited energy that it's really hard for me to say right now. I did just want to put that out there though, that I am planning on selling models online at some point. I will of course give updates on my social media, mostly Instagram and Facebook, so if you are on those platforms and want to keep up to date on info about me selling, or just stuff in general, you can follow me on there. And that's gonna wrap up this video, which was quite the video, I guess. If you have any stories you want to tell about how your interest has changed in the model horse hobby, or any hobby in general, you can let me know down in the comments below. I am really interested in hearing about your own experiences. Thank you for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you in the next video. Bye, everyone!